earned and proven, my grandmother looked at my face and decided I wasn't good enough to be a Caldwell. My phone buzzed. A text from my commanding officer, "Need you back in San Diego tomorrow. SECDEF wants your briefing on the Taiwan Strait analysis. This is high priority." I wiped my eyes, started the car, and drove to the airport. I had work to do, and unlike my family, the Navy judged me by what I could do, not what I looked like. 3 months later, my grandmother had a stroke. It was massive, leaving her partially paralyzed and unable to speak clearly. She was moved to a private rehabilitation facility, the best money could buy, where she could receive round-the-clock care while the family figured out next steps. I was in the Persian Gulf when it happened, coordinating intelligence operations for the Fifth Fleet. My mother called me via satellite phone, her voice thick with tears. They don't know if she'll recover," she said. "The doctors they're saying we should prepare for the worst." "I'm sorry, Mom," I said, and I meant it. Whatever else she was, my grandmother was still my mother's mother. "Will you come home when you can?" "I'll try," but I was leading an active operation. I couldn't just leave. 2 weeks later, my deployment ended. I flew back to North Carolina, still in my working uniform, Navy Type 3 NWUs, the blue and gray camouflage pattern we wore for daily duty. I hadn't had time to change before catching my flight. The rehabilitation facility was upscale and discreet, designed to look more like a luxury hotel than a medical center. I signed in at the desk, noting the names already on the visitor log. Brandon and Ashley had been there that morning, Uncle James the day before. A nurse directed me to my grandmother's room on the 3rd floor. I took the elevator up, my sea bag slung over my shoulder, and walked down a hallway that smelled of flowers and antiseptic. Voices drifted from my grandmother's room, Brandon's voice loud and confident. I stopped at the doorway. Brandon stood by the window, his back to the door, talking on his phone. Ashley sat in a chair near the bed, scrolling through her own phone. My grandmother lay in the hospital bed, her face slack on one side, her eyes tracking toward me as I entered. "Telling you it's handled," Brandon was saying into his phone. "She'll sign whatever we need her to sign. The lawyer says as long as she can make a mark on the page, it's legally binding. We'll have full control of the company by end of month." I stepped fully into the room. Ashley looked up, her eyes widening slightly as she took in my uniform, the Navy insignia, the commander's rank on my chest, the warfare device pinned above my ribbons. "Brandon," she said quietly, "we have company." He turned, phone still pressed to his ear. His eyes flicked over me dismissively. "I'll call you back," he said into the phone, then to me, "Melanie, didn't expect to see you here." I came as soon as I could. I moved to my grandmother's bedside. Her right hand reached toward me weakly, and I took it. "Hello, Grandma." She made a sound, wordless, frustrated, and I saw tears form in her eyes. "The doctors say she understands everything," Ashley said. "She just can't express it clearly." "I see," I looked at Brandon. "What were you saying about having her sign something?" "Estate business," he said dismissively. "Nothing you need to worry about. You were disinherited, remember? This doesn't concern you. If you're manipulating a stroke victim into signing legal documents, I'd say it concerns everyone." His expression hardened. "Careful, Mel. You're not part of this family's financial decisions. You're just here to play soldier and then leave again." "Commander," I corrected quietly. "I'm a commander in the United States Navy." He laughed. Actually laughed. "Right. I forget you're very proud of your little military career. Very impressive, I'm sure. But this is about real business, real money, real power. You wouldn't understand." My grandmother made another sound, her hand squeezing mine with surprising strength. Her eyes were locked on me, desperate and urgent. "What were you planning to have her sign?" I asked again. "Transfer documents," Ashley said, when Brandon didn't answer. "To expedite the estate distribution, the lawyers said it would be cleaner, less complicated later. While she's incapacitated and can't properly consent." "She understands," Brandon snapped. The doctor said she understands speech directed at her," I interrupted. "That doesn't mean she's capable of making complex legal decisions or resisting pressure from family members who stand to gain millions." "What are you implying?" "I'm not implying anything, I'm stating it clearly. What you're describing is elder abuse, possibly fraud, and definitely coercion of a vulnerable adult. In North Carolina, that's a felony. Brandon's face flushed red. You have no authority here. This is family business. Actually, said a new voice from the doorway, she has more authority than you might think. We all turned. A man in his 50s stood at the entrance, wearing a well-cut suit and carrying a briefcase. I recognized him. Arthur Pemberton, my grandmother's longtime attorney. Mr. Pemberton, Brandon said, recovering quickly. Good. You can explain to my cousin that the documents are perfectly legal. I'm not here about those documents, Pemberton said. I'm here because Mrs. Caldwell contacted me 3 weeks ago, before her stroke. She wanted to make changes to her estate plan. The room went silent. What kind of changes? Ashley asked, her voice tight. Pemberton looked at me. She wanted to reverse her decision regarding Commander Sharp's inheritance. She'd been researching her granddaughter's military career, actually researching it, reading articles, watching testimony she gave before the Senate Armed Services Committee. She called me, quite agitated, and said she'd made a terrible mistake. My grandmother's hand squeezed mine again, and I saw tears running down the left side of her face. That's ridiculous, Brandon said. She never mentioned anything to me. No, Pemberton agreed. She didn't. She specifically instructed me not to discuss it with the family until the documents were finalized. Unfortunately, her stroke happened before we could execute the new will, so technically the old one stands. However, he opened his briefcase and withdrew a folder. She did sign a letter of intent, witnessed and notarized. It's not legally binding for estate purposes, but it makes her wishes very clear. And it specifically names Commander Sharp as co-executor of the estate, with equal authority to Mr. Brandon Caldwell. Brandon went white. That's impossible. She wouldn't. She did. Pemberton handed me the folder. She wrote this herself, Commander. I think you should read it. I opened the folder with shaking hands. My grandmother's handwriting, shaky but unmistakable, covered 2 pages. Melanie, I am writing this because I need you to know what I could not say to your face. I was wrong. Profoundly, shamefully wrong. I have spent the past 3 weeks reading about your career, your testimony on naval readiness, your commendations, your service record. An article mentioned that you briefed the Joint Chiefs, on matters of national security. My granddaughter, advising the highest military leaders in our nation. And I disinherited you because of your scars. What kind of woman does that make me? What kind of grandmother values appearance over substance, social standing over actual achievement, the ability to look good in photographs over the ability to serve your country with distinction? I tell myself I am a woman of substance, of values, but when faced with a granddaughter who exemplified those very values, courage, service, sacrifice, I chose instead to elevate a boy whose greatest accomplishment was being born handsome. You saved your sister from a fire, Brandon started. You carry the scars of that heroism on your face, and I punished you for it. I cannot undo the